Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are shifting into a serious and, frankly, deeply uncomfortable deep dive. Our sources compile a series of very specific accounts, some modern, some historical, encounters that really push the absolute boundaries of safety and, well, sanity.
That's right.
We were talking about those moments when perceived safety just completely shatters.
Exactly. And our focus today isn't abstract theory. It's about extracting, actionable knowledge from these really chilling narratives.
Right.
We need to identify the cold, calculated patterns of predatory behavior, these psychological traps, and, maybe most importantly, the vital role your own instinct plays in survival.
We've drawn material from, well, all over, desperate historical frontier nightmares right up to modern traps set using things like dating apps or during hiking trips.
It's a wide spectrum.
But the underlying mechanisms, control, isolation, they remain terrifyingly consistent. Let's maybe start with the most calculated setups, the deliberate lures laid in very public, very familiar spaces.
Good place to start. We call this the substitution tactic. See, for a predator, the easiest target is often someone already looking for interaction, someone expecting someone else.
Makes sense.
And this is where that calculated substitution comes in. It's perfectly illustrated by this Tinder incident in Utrecht in the Netherlands.
Right, tell us about that. An 18-year-old was meeting friends before a date, someone named Jens.
Yes, but Jens was supposedly delayed, but there was already a man, looked maybe 30, sitting on the bar waiting. And he immediately inserted himself into their group, offering drinks, trying to, get them a bit relaxed, maybe slightly intoxicated.
But so I guess efficient here is the lie, right? He capitalized on the fact they were expecting someone.
Precisely. He didn't need to break the ice. The victim, or potential victim, was already primed for social interaction. He piggybacked on that expectation to build instant pseudo-trust.
But the key piece of information, the survival nugget, it came from someone else entirely.
It did. When one of the friends went to get water, the waitress, the bartender, she pulled her aside, gave her this immediate vital warning.
Because she recognized a pattern.
A specific pattern. This man was routinely there when young women got stood up. He'd buy drinks, then pressure them relentlessly. Come home with me for Bacardi. It was his line.
Wow.
This wasn't random. It was a refined, repeatable process, exploiting disappointment, maybe a little alcohol.
And the bartender noticing that.
Yeah.
Life-saving. Makes you wonder how often service staff see these things starting.
Absolutely. A crucial observation.
So, if substitution is one tactic, let's look at achieving isolation quickly. The Uber detour scenario.
Yes, this one's disturbing because it twists something many people rely on for safety.
Right. So someone finishes a late double shift, gets an Uber home. Pretty standard.
Except the driver maintained this unsettling blank stare in the mirror the whole time, never spoke, never engaged, just staring. That immediately sets up this baseline of discomfort.
Yeah, that's creepy enough. But then it escalated.
It did. The driver suddenly veered off the expected route onto an unfamiliar highway, took a sharp turn onto Rikers Island.
Which is known for being pretty isolated, right? Lots of trees, construction.
Exactly. And then the car just stops. Abruptly.
And the driver says,
He says, "My car just broke here. Get out and call a new Uber."
Just like that. Get out.
Just like that. And this is the shock factor. The second the passenger is out, the driver hits the gas and speeds away. The car was working perfectly fine.
Leaving them stranded, late at night, isolated, high-risk area.
It's about shock and disorientation. Take them somewhere unfamiliar, high risk, overwhelm them with confusion, force them out. It creates this window of extreme vulnerability.
And the kicker, the profile picture on the app didn't match the actual driver.
Which confirms it. This wasn't just a bad ride. It was likely a vehicle being used for something far worse. Attempted trafficking, maybe? Or worse.
Chilling. Which leads us, I suppose, to exploiting vulnerability in a different way. You called it laced trust.
Yes, the temple encounter is a prime example. This is where a predator uses someone's existing vulnerability. In this case, two young women, homeless, seeking shelter, and uses it against them by pretending to be kind.
So they were drawn into this beautiful temple, right?
Right.
By a man playing their favorite R&B music, offered them unbelievably cheap rooms.
That initial sense of relief, of sanctuary, it dissolved incredibly quickly.
How so?
He went from aggressive compliments, which were already a bit much, straight into really forward questions about their sexual preferences.
Okay, red flag.
Huge red flag. The speed of that escalation is the key signal. Within minutes, the mask just dropped completely. He started talking about Well, using drugs on other girls to control them.
He admitted that.
He was boasting, testing their reaction, seeing how much depravity they could handle.
That's horrifying.
And the absolute breaking point, the moment they knew they had to get out, came from his own psychological state. He slipped up, mentioned hearing people screaming at night, tortured, banging on his door.
Oh my God.
When they confronted him, asked about the screaming, he didn't answer logically. He just snapped.
What did he do?
Played this terrifying Viking chant video on his phone really loud and just started screaming maniacally at them, teeth showing, eyes wide, full psychotic break.
And they ran.
They realized they were locked in with someone incredibly dangerous and unstable. They fled immediately. The lesson there, that rapid transition from seeming kindness to overt danger, that sudden manic shift, that is a non-negotiable signal. Get out. Now.
Okay, so we've seen lures in public, isolation via transport, exploiting vulnerability. What about violating the place that's supposed to be safest, your home?
Right. Let's talk about boundary testing, the home scouting attempt.
This involves a couple who are very security conscious.
Extremely. Front door, dead bolted, sure. But the back door, they had 5 different locks on it. Layered, redundant security.
And then they get a knock.
An unknown man, no uniform, insists he's maintenance, there to fix the back door, specifically the back door.
The one with 5 locks, that's the test, isn't it?
Exactly. He doesn't wait for permission, walks straight in, goes directly to that heavily secured back door, and methodically undoes all 5 locks.
All 5.
Every single one. Opens the door for just a second, says, oops, wrong place, turns around, and leaves. Immediately. Out another word.
So, was it just a really clumsy maintenance guy? Or something else?
That's the chilling question, isn't it? It feels much less like a mistake and much more like reconnaissance, like pre-crime intelligence gathering.
He was testing the locks, seeing how easy they were to defeat, gauging their reaction.
Precisely. He didn't steal anything. His goals seemed purely informational. Find the weak points, prove they can be breached, and see how the occupants respond.
That level of calculation, it extends everywhere, even into the wilderness where isolation is almost guaranteed.
Which brings us to the double agent scenario, the hiker's coordinated trap.
This involves a male hiker who comes across a young woman, ally, who seems stranded.
Yes. The initial meeting seems innocent, maybe even helpful. Trust is established. But almost right away, the hiker notices things aren't quite right.
Like what?
Like a dark figure, a masked man, wearing thick, reinforced gloves, tracking their exact movements from the tree line, just watching. Following.
Okay, that's terrifying.
Definitely. So the hiker gets a bad feeling, insists they need to leave the area quickly.
And how does Allie react?
Her entire demeanor flips, instantly aggressive, accuses him of being a total jerk. That sudden hostility, that deflection, it reveals the partnership.
She was in on it.
She was the bait. And the trap springs when the hiker makes that split-second call, drop the heavy backpack and run for it.
And how did he know for sure it was a trap?
He only fully confirmed it when he heard Allie scream after him, but not in fear. She yelled, "He's getting away."
Oh, wow.
It wasn't a cry for help. It was a tactical command to her partner, the masked man. The trap was confirmed.
Incredible. The coordination involved.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned we need to touch on something slightly different. Extreme psychological breakdown.
Yes, briefly, but it's crucial. We've talked about external calculated threats. But to really grasp human resilience and its limits, we have to look at what happens when the mind itself breaks under extreme duress. The Lone Ranger story.
This is a historical account, right, from the 1850s?
Correct. A lone Texas Ranger pursued relentlessly by Comanche warriors. Days of running, no food, no water, starvation, extreme dehydration, constant fear.
And when they finally caught him?
He wasn't human anymore in the way we understand it. He had completely shattered mentally. He was laughing uncontrollably, offered his chest for them to kill him, laughing. When they scalped him, which was common practice, he apparently clapped his hands in amusement. He was simply too far gone to register pain or fear or reality.
It's hard to even imagine.
And the insight here is horrific, but vital. The Comanche warriors accustomed to brutality, they left him alive.
Why?
They believed he had bad magic. His complete loss of sanity, his detachment from human response, it unnerved them. He was so broken, he wasn't considered a worthy, honorable kill anymore.
So his madness became a perverse kind of shield.
In a way, it illustrates the absolute limit of human suffering, how isolation and extreme stress can utterly destroy a person's core humanity, beyond even what a brutal enemy expects.
understanding that extreme. It helps frame the smaller but still dangerous psychological attacks we see in some of the modern accounts.
Exactly. Like the skater guy on the Mount Hood trails. Followed a woman for a mile.
Started with just harassment, right? Claiming she stole his bag, making threats.
Low-level stuff initially. But then other hikers appeared. He realized he needed a way to stop them from helping her.
And his tactic was deeply manipulative.
Chillingly brilliant in a horrifying way. He started screaming that the woman was his suicidal sister and they needed to help him grab her before she hurt herself.
Oh, man. So he turns potential rescuers into hesitant bystanders?
Precisely. It uses social compassion and fear of interfering in a family crisis against them, makes them pause, doubt, wonder if they should get involved, buys him time, isolates her further.
That kind of calculated manipulation, making systems work for the predator. It happens in institutions, too.
Which brings us to the work colleague situation. Systemic failure enabling bad behavior.
This involved a deaf colleague, right? Started with inappropriate comments, blocking doorways.
Yes, and what's crucial here is the initial response from management. Repeated complaints were dismissed. They attributed his behavior to his disability.
Excusing it, basically, instead of seeing it as deliberate, escalating harassment.
In that inaction, that systemic failure, it enabled him. It created a safe space for him to continue and escalate.
Until it became physical.
Until he physically grabbed a female coworker's upper thigh and asked, point blank, "Does this make you uncomfortable?" That physical act, crossing that undeniable line, finally forced management's hand. He was fired.
But only after the escalation was allowed to happen over time. It shows how inaction can be just as dangerous.
Absolutely. Institutional blindness can be a predator's best friend.
So we've covered substitution, forced isolation, boundary testing, the double agent, psychological warfare, manipulation tactics, systemic enablement. Looking across all these stories, what's the connecting thread? What's the core takeaway?
What's really fascinating and maybe hopeful in a dark way is how often survival actually hinges not on fighting skills, not on elaborate plans, but on immediately recognizing and crucially trusting that primal fight or flight response.
That gut feeling.
That gut feeling. The woman who ran from the skater immediately, the teens in another story who refused to go down into a dark basement for some promised puzzles, they all listened to that internal alarm bell.
Even when it seemed rude or illogical.
Especially then, they chose instinct over the intense societal pressure to be polite, to not make a scene, to follow the seemingly logical but actually predatory path laid out for them.
So these stories, they really emphasize the vulnerability that comes with being alone, the chillingly calculated nature of these traps, and just the absolute necessity of vigilance, hypervigilance even.
In seemingly safe or normal scenarios, a bar, an Uber, hiking trail, even your own front door, nowhere is automatically safe if someone is determined.
Right.
We've established these patterns, haven't we? At testing resilience, testing weakness, substitution, isolation, boundary probing.
So the final thought to leave people with, building on all this.
Well, the question it raises for me, and maybe for you listening, is this. If predators are constantly out there, refining these maneuvers, substitution, isolation, testing boundaries, how many of these incidents that seem random, seem isolated, how many are actually part of a larger, maybe even coordinated pattern, a pattern of constantly identifying and exploiting the weakest points in our daily routines, in our societal structures, in our own psychology?
That's a deeply unsettling thought to end on. It really forces you to reevaluate everyday interactions.
It does. The key is to stay aware and always, always trust your gut, even when, especially when it feels wrong or impolite.
Thank you for joining us for this very serious deep dive today.
Yeah.
We encourage you to reflect on these patterns. Trust that instinct. Stay safe out there.